Visualis3R can show you both emboss and deboss, and we're going to do that today as a quick little tutorial. Now, I found this image online when I was looking for examples of embossing and debossing, and it's a beautiful example of how you can use the two together in a typographic example. So I found this from Pixel Buddha, so shout out to those guys. So deboss and emboss, and there are two different types here. This is more of a sharper deboss, and the emboss is more like a beveled, softer edge to it. So we're actually going to replicate that now. So what we're going to do, I've taken that image, thank you very much for letting me use it, and I've pasted it into an Illustrator file. And what I also did was I made a duplicate of the image and I just airbrushed out the text on the image, so all we have is the background. So if I basically show you everything here, just hide those out of the way, you can see that I just basically did a quick retouch, nothing fancy. So what we have now is we have two different spot colors, one called Deboss and one called Emboss. Nice and easy. So logically, color up the area that you want to be embossed and the area that you want to be debossed. So I've copied their style. I just grabbed some fonts that I found in my library, and then we're going to basically save that as a PDF. Now, it is important that you set all these areas to overprint. So from your window menu, go to Appearance, Attributes. Make sure I get it right, Attributes, and switch on the overprint fill box. And that means that basically that emboss will overprint that area and it doesn't knock out your image. Very important. So let's just switch on overprint preview, make sure that's still working correctly, overprint preview. So we can see that there. We can also go to separation preview. And if we turn off these emboss and deboss, we should still see the design behind the background. So we do. So it's working. So that's all there is to it. Now we're going to save that as a PDF. And then we will take that PDF into the Visualis3R software. So what we're going to do now is select PDF, and we're going to go and find that file that we just created. And then let's just make this a little bit larger on the screen. So it's ripping the file, and we can now see the two. So we've got some default settings built into this already. So all we have to do is go into the emboss layer, and we're going to first of all change the height and the bevel of this one. So let's whack up the height a little bit. Let's push up the bevel. It's looking pretty close. Let's up the shadow a little bit. We also want to do this as like a matte effect rather than a shiny glossy emboss. Let's just switch that over and now push up the shadow a little bit more just to try and match it somewhere. Highlight edge needs to come up a little bit to make it a little bit brighter. And you can see here that the highlight edge is coming, the light shining from this direction. So let's replicate that as well. Let's go into the environmental controls. Let's change the directional light. Let's move it off to the same direction as what we're using on this file here, so we can simulate that. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. Let's just say, do we need to change the highlight a little bit? Let's bring it down just a little bit. So we can basically match different types of embossing. So if you have a sample of embossing, you can go in and you can basically just set it to what you want. So I'm going to say that is probably about what I want for my emboss. So I could actually save that now and say emboss XYZ printer, whoever I'm getting it from. And then I know that that is the type of embossing that they have. So the next time, if I was to come in and basically if it was reset to default and I loaded, I can just come in here, do XYZ printer, and it's now set as my example. You can also save it as a factory default. So basically, let's just save that as a default now. And what that means is if I basically mess around with all this, and I go, oh my God, what did I do? You can reset to default and it resets to your saved default settings. So you're then tailoring the software to work the way that you do. So every time you bring in an emboss, it will always look like that. And then again, you can also go to your presets if you wanted to, switch to a different type of print service provider who does it slightly different. So let's take a look at the deboss. So the deboss one, it's slightly sharper. It's not quite as beveled, it's not quite as high. Now this time, the emboss height works negative, so you go to the left. So we're going to push that, make it a bit deeper. Again, we're going to make it roughness, so let's start with that one. Let's push the bevel up, Let's do the hide a bit more. Let's put some shadow into that. And somewhere around about there. Of course, I've got a different font, so you're not going to see the same kind of depth ratio on this letter P, but it's really about just trying to use your imagination here. It's really a case of, you know, if I had the exact same fonts, we'd pretty much be able to get it exact. So pretty easy to be able to work out what you want to do. Maybe you want to just, and again, these are very subtle changes that I'm doing, just see if I can get it the way I want it. I'm going to go with that one. So in this one I would have Deboss XYZ printer. Oops, XYZ. Save that. I can save it as my default. And again, if I then screw around with my settings, I can always reset to default and it goes back to my saved ones. And of course, if you then decide you want to basically go back to the factory reset, what factory reset does, let's do that on the Emboss one so you can see it's a bit more embossed, it's easy to see. If I do factory reset, that is going to basically wipe out your preset that you've saved and take it back to how the software shipped. So there we go. One easy, simple way of working with the Visualis3R software to give you the full control of matching any type of effect. And that is really what this is all about. Contact your print service provider, contact substrate companies, get physical samples of the material. Foils, varnishes, metallics, embossing, debossing, laminations, they're all different, and there's different types of providers out there. You cannot have just one simple that says, this is varnish, this is foil, because everything changes. So Visualis3R was developed to empower designers, printers, pre-press companies, brands to be able to match exactly how it looks for yourself. So I hope this video tutorial was beneficial, and this is one of many that we will be adding to the Academy, and this will then exactly show you how the files are created and how you then create them. So if you have any questions, please reach out to us at hello@v3r.studio.